News, sports, education, and entertainment. Wake up, GI, with Jeffrey Smith. Brought to you by the Geary Community Schools Corporation.
All right, everybody, we are back. Once again, I want to give a shout out to Liberty House Cafe. Just a great story. I love talking with those, finding out about resources like that here in Northwest Indiana that are out here just trying to be really part of the problem. I'm taking shots at my doctors. Yes, I am. But that's what we do on this show. Going to transition and talk about another wonderful event coming up. I believe it's a women's conference, if I'm correct, that we'll be talking about. And we're joined right now in studio by Pastor Wilson and, of course, Miss Tammy Calloway of Israel CME. Full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, I call Israel CME my mother's natural church. And what I mean by that is when my late mother was baptized there. That was her church that she went to. I believe that's what I always heard from her and my grandmother. Now they end up, I was a part of another church, obviously, growing up. But every time I hear Israel, there's a little soft spot in my heart because of my mom. So I appreciate you all just by being you. So with that being said, I want to say good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead. We'll start ladies first. That's how we do it, Pastor. Go over here. What's going on, Tammy?
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Tammy Calloway, and I am a member of Israel Metropolitan CME Church.
Yeah.
I've been a member there since I was 7 months old.
Well, yeah. See, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. What's your mom's name? But, and it is a journey of love that we're on right now. Yeah. We have been working on this particular conference since about January, and we hope to service at least 100 women.
Wow.
And we just want them to be able to come and share, experience a healing and deliverance. Yeah. So that's what we are on when we speak about touching the hem of his garment.
Well, we're going to come back to that because that's kind of interesting stuff. I want to go further into that. But I got to go to the pastor now. What's going on, Pastor Wilson? Go ahead and introduce what's going on.
Well, pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
I'm Pastor Octavius Wilson. Been at Israel for about 5 years now.
You know that's a very regal name, don't you, Pastor Octavius?
Oh, well, thank you.
I like it. Go ahead.
I do feel regal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was this conference was actually it's been in my belly for about 7 years.
Right.
I had a church previously down in Bloomington, Illinois.
Oh wow, you was in the cut.
Yeah, right by Illinois State University.
Familiar with that area.
And this was going to be a conference that was focused on some of the young women there.
Right.
But I guess God had a different plan for it. So I was sent here.
We wanted you out of the cornfields. Told you come north.
Took me out. Took me back toward the culture that I'm used to. I'm from the south side of Chicago.
Oh, okay.
So Gary and Chicago are similar. And he brought it back to my spirit.
Right.
And we want to, like Tammy said, we want to be able to provide healing, deliverance, peace of mind, and listen, not just spiritually. So this conference is not just going to be churchy.
Right.
It's also going to be informational from a clinical perspective. So the name of the conference is the hem of his garment, based off scripture, the woman with the issue of blood.
Yeah.
But this first year's focus is going to be on spiritual war. We're going to be focusing on the mind, the body, and the spirit.
Right.
So we're going to have clinical psychiatrists there. We're going to have some social workers
You're
there.
going under the hood.
Yeah, we got to go under the hood. We got to give people tangible ways in which they can activate scriptures in their lives in a real way. Yeah. So we're going to have people coming out who are professionals in these different areas for the spiritual mind, or the battle of the mind piece, the mental health piece. And then we're going to be talking about physical health. Just self-care, and we're going to have some people who are in that field of self-care that are going to be there talking, and then we're going to talk about the spiritual piece as well with the soul. Right. And we have some dynamic presenters, Charm Mosley, Amber Wilson, Reverend Dr. Beverly Lewis of the House of Bread out here in Gary. Right. We have some awesome women that are going to be presenting on Saturday for this conference. So we're excited about everything that's going to happen this weekend.
I want to get back to you because I want to find out a little bit about your journey, because it seems like it's interesting. As I said, I'm familiar with Bloomington, Illinois, and just kind of your journey, how you got there, and how you ended up over at Israel. Because you seem like a very interesting person. Yeah. But I want to go back to Tammy. Let's talk about this conference. Because, we talk about a lot of stuff on the show, politics and things like that. But one of the things we've been talking about in particular, as it relates, it appears from the outside in the Black community, is that there is this diversion or this this kind of an adversarial relationship going on right now, it appears, between black men and black women. The presidential campaign is exacerbating it, where you have black women who are kind of hanging out a little traditional with the Democrat Party, and seeing the black men are kind of trying to find, hey, what about us? Where are we going? And so I've always asked if this represents a deeper problem. So as you go to this women's conference and you kind of pull back the layers, as it were, and go under the hood, how does the black family and how do relationships fit into this?
I think that relationships fit into it because I always say that the man is the head. He's the head of the family.
I didn't pay you to say that.
But I'll get it afterwards. I always say the man is the head of the family.
Right.
But the woman is the heart.
Yes.
So if the woman is weak or just not up to her 100%,
right,
then the family falters.
Right.
The community may falter.
Right.
Because we mother everyone.
Yes.
So if we can build up a woman's confidence, build up, give her ideas where she can kind of cope with everyday life.
Right.
Not just those problems that come at you every now and again, but everyday life, then that's better for our families, for our communities, and for our men, because we are supporting them.
No, and I'm so glad you kind of said that, because I'm not trying to take you down a political role or anything like that. But, I always kind of, say it. I'm an only child, but I grew up, my mom was college educated. She has a lot of sisters. When I was going through school, I didn't go through a time in which girls were not smart or were not participating. So for me to kind of look at women as being inferior, it's just not my DNA. I can't do it. Mm-hmm. However, I do believe that there are certain gender roles. And what I mean by that is, men have a way that we exist. It doesn't mean we should be domineering or anything like that. But, a man, when you look at the family unit, for instance, I think women are blessed with one of the most beautiful things in human nature, and that's the ability to gestate and carry another human life to term. That's something men can't do. There's obviously going to be a connection with that. We're going to find out about that when we see Mother's Day compared to the ties that dads get on Father's Day. I mean, it's no comparison, and it is what it is. Yes. But there are also spaces for men to operate that they need to be kind of reaffirmed so they can feel like men, and they want to participate, and they want to feel like they're giving and protecting and adding to the value of their family. And so when I hear about these women's conferences and things, I wonder if those conversations are had in order to kind of go out here and really kind of keep the family together, in particular the black family, because we've got to work on that.
Absolutely. That's what we really want to do because, again, if the woman is not grounded,
right,
then she can't assist or build up someone else.
Yes.
So this conference is set up so that they can get mental. Okay.
Right.
What am I going through? What's happening with me? Why is this happening with me?
Yeah.
How can I address it?
Yeah.
The self-care aspect, which my daughter is facilitating.
Nice.
Why is it okay to go get your hair done?
Right.
Why is it okay to go get your nails done? Why is it okay to go get a massage?
Well,
and why is it necessary?
Right.
Because myself, I get my nails done.
I know.
I'm gonna do that.
Laid out.
That's what I'm gonna do for me.
Right.
Okay. That's my time.
Yes.
If I don't do anything else, I'm gonna get these nails done.
Right.
So again, we want to show women that you have to take some time for yourself so that you can be better for someone else.
No, and I'm glad you kind of put it like that. I look at, my wife or, going back to my mother or even myself as a guy, there are certain things you do that, from the outside it looks, like, okay, this is all about you, and my wife will appreciate the certain things that I do, but it makes me more available and a better person for my spouse. And so, I'm glad to hear about that because I appreciate it. Let me ask you another thing. Then I want to go to Pastor and kind of get his views on his baby that he made materialize. Yes. What about sisterhood? Because this is something else that just from the peanut gallery. I'm over here peeking in your meetings. I'm eavesdropping. But one thing that I always appreciate that I've heard women talk about is the need to connect with one another. There's always this myth out here that a large group of women are usually probably not friends because women can't really get along. I've seen, my wife has friends, and I've seen people kind of interact on a positive level, but there is a sisterhood that needs to be maintained. And so will that be dealt with?
It will.
Yeah.
That will be dealt with. and I think through all three of the aspects, the mental, self-care, and spiritual part. Because we, sometimes as Black women, we tear each other down.
Yes.
And it's a shame because that's the crab in the bucket mentality.
Right.
I don't want you to get more than what I'm getting.
Right.
When we should, in fact, be saying, you get yours, I'm going to help you get yours, and I know you're going to help me get mine. And we're going to all work together.
Yes.
So it is unfortunate that sometimes you have these relationships where women don't get along. If you look at it, when you have a lot of women, even in an office setting or something like that, it's always a nitpick. You got to click here, click there, everything. We all need to be able to come together. You might not like me, but we can get along.
Thank you.
You know? So that's a part of what this conference will help. Yes, sisterhood is strong. We have to be able to say, look, you my sister, you struggling, let me help you.
Exactly.
I have three friends I met when I was 3 years old. When I walked into the choir stand at Israel CME Church. And we are still friends today.
God bless you.
I don't talk to them every day. I don't see them every day. You all have your lives. But if they need me, or if I need them, we right there. So,
and if I may interject,
go ahead. I'm about to come to you. Interesting segue.
I think the reason why most women and men, for that nature, or for that fact, have these clashes and these issues with one another is because there's an issue going on inside.
Yes.
So this is what the conference is trying to identify. Help people to identify what's my issue, what's going on with me, why am I not happy with me, what is my purpose, what is my value. And when someone is valued, when they value themselves, they tend to value other people.
I like that.
So when we don't value ourselves, it becomes that, well, I have to put myself out before you, or I have to tear you down so that I can look better. But when you know who you are, you're sure and you have assurance in who you are, you really don't have to do that. As a matter of fact, when you have an assurance of who you are, you lift people up.
There you go.
Because you want everybody to be great. You want everybody to recognize how God has made them and how awesome they are. So it's an interior thing. It's a thing that's going on the inside. And as it pertains to the physical health, I was also a personal trainer in my past life. And I had a personal training studio. And I did a lot of studies on physiology. And it's scientifically proven that what goes on in the mind affects the body.
Absolutely.
And vice versa.
Yes.
There's studies that show that some people, once they find out about illness, they get sicker. Because what's going on mentally actually affects your DNA. It affects your genes. And so when you have a combination of those things going on, it could destroy a person. But at the same time, when you have a sound mind and a healthy body, it also can uplift someone.
There you go,
and give somebody total health.
I like that.
So
I like that a lot.
Connected.
I think and I want to kind of add on to what Tammy was talking about, because I'll be the first to admit, this is the complexity of women. I think you're giving men way too credit, because our relationships are very primitive. Let me tell you something. If I like hanging out with a guy going fishing, we're keeping it on the fishing level, and we can get along just fine. I'm not going over here for no emotional support. I got somebody else for that. But women, you are a lot more complex, and nature designs you like that, and you're so many layers of different things. That's why you're the nurturers. And we're the guys that are a little bit more focused. But, you're absolutely hit it on the nail. It's about self-worth and about how we feel, because when you tend to feel good about yourself, you don't have to tear people down. You really don't. And so I think that this conference is absolutely on point, and I love some of the things I'm hearing. Give us the logistics about it, because I got some questions for Pastor before we let him go. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the conference will be held at our church, Israel CME Church, at 2301 Washington Street. Now, we have a 3-day festival going.
Of course you do, yes.
So Friday night, April 26th, at 7 o'clock, we will have our praise and worship service. We have 4 or 5 groups from around the area. And it's just praise and worship. Singing, praise, dancing, intercessory prayer, peppered in. And we're just going to uplift the Lord in worship. And so we're hoping that night, then our women that come will come back Saturday morning.
That worship service is open to men, women, children.
Okay, good. Everyone.
And then Saturday morning, our conference starts at 9. Registration is at 8:30. We are asking a $40 registration fee that will cover your materials and lunch. And so, but the information that you're going to receive from this conference is going to be life-changing. We are expecting deliverance. We are expecting healing through this conference, because we struggle so much.
Yeah.
But and then Sunday morning at 11, our morning worship service, our keynote speaker, Dr. Beverly Lewis, will bring the morning sermon.
Yeah.
So we just hope this community will come out and join us. Women only, of course, on Saturday, but
Right.
Friday night and Sunday morning we are open to the community, and we just pray that families will come and enjoy and learn something different.
I think this is right on time too, because when you just kind of look, and as I said, without getting into politics and things like that, there are just a lot of issues out here that women are dealing with, whether we can go into the Roe v. Wade and all these kind of things. And there just needs to be a place where women can go and get spiritually centered, talk amongst themselves, get some teachings from people, obviously, who have something to speak to, and just a nice little support in this like desert of craziness that's going on in our country. I want to go ahead, Pastor.
No.
Okay.
I was just agreeing.
Yeah. And so I want to go back over to you. And once again, I just think that this is great. It's a great brainchild of yours. I'm just curious about your path. I want to know a little bit about you because, as I said, you're an interesting guy. We're going to get you back on here again to talk more about you. But tell me a little bit about your journey. You talked about you were from South Side of Chicago. You got into physical training, ended up down in Bloomington, Illinois. That's kind of the story I want to know. How'd you end up down there?
Well, just following God's call on my life.
So did you initially, I'm sorry to interrupt you, did you initially after, let's say you graduated high school or maybe after college, when did you know that you had a distinct calling to get into
My
this?
God, you want to know the details.
I want to know the details. I like to know how the sausage is made.
But the reality is, my brother, is that growing up on the south side of Chicago,
right.
I was in a very poverty-stricken community, crime-ridden, hopeless type of situation, desolate. My parents did the best they could. I was the last of 5 children.
Right.
My mom and dad had me when they were 40.
Wow.
So by the time they had their 5th child, they were working, trying to make sure the roof stayed over their heads and the bills were paid. So I was the runt of the litter that kind of got away from their attention. I got into a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have got into. I got into the street life. Lost my way. Even though I had grown up in the church, my mom took me to Sunday school, and I was a part of youth ministry and the youth choir. By the time I became a teenager, I started to make my own decisions, and I made some bad ones. And I ended up going down some paths I shouldn't have went, and ended up in the penitentiary.
Wow.
But from that point, I think that was my life-changing circumstance.
Nice.
While I was there, I was able to stay away from some of the things that kept my mind clouded from who I really was. And once I got out of there, I just took a different path. God started to connect me with people who understood me, who loved me for me, who didn't judge me for my past mistakes. I was a part of a men's ministry that kind of encouraged me to get into the Word and to learn the Bible more. Then I went back to church, to my home church, Carter Temple CME, and, on 79th Street in Chicago. Very major ministry. We had about 1,500 members right there on 79th and Wabash, in the middle of the Chatham community. So I went back there on fire because I didn't want other young people to fall away and follow the same path I did. So as my testimony, I went in and as a part of my testimony, I went in and I encouraged the young people. Became the youth pastor. And I became the assistant to the pastor in my home church. And before you know it, I was accepting my call to preach. From that point, in the CME church, we have what's called itinerant ministry. And it's run by an episcopacy, or bishops. And they have the power to send you to where they need you to be, to appoint you to churches. So I went to seminary in 2017, or 2014, graduated in 2017. Got my Master's of Divinity because once I figured out what God was calling me to, I went all the way in.
You went all in after that.
I wanted to be the best version of me I wanted to be as far as being a preacher. So I graduated from the Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary on Northwestern's campus in Chicago. Got my degree, and as soon as I got out of there, the bishop had an assignment for you. Since I was a young pastor, and he recognized my passion for young people, he sent me right down by a college, university, which is how I ended up in Bloomington. We started there with like 2 members, and we grew it to about 30. I was there for about 18 months, and then there was a need for me here at Israel in Gary.
And then you
had a situation going on with the leadership. I came mid-season, mid-year, and jumped in with both feet.
And haven't looked back.
I've just been pouring my life out trying to bring back to life the church.
Man, let me tell you something. And as I said, I appreciate you sharing that. And we don't have enough time because I can go all in on this and make my whole show revolve around it. But I got to tell you, that is absolutely amazing.
Yes, sir.
It's an awesome story. I guess the next question would be the obvious one. Of course, you're serving your flock here in Gary, Indiana, at Israel, but do you ever go back over the border, back to Chicago? Because, you know, I mean, we see what's going on there. We see the need and things of that nature. And let me tell you something. You were a young man. I was a young man. I didn't necessarily grow up in those conditions or whatever, but just going back to being a young man, sometimes if you're out here and you're making mistakes and things like that, sometimes you need a little realism.
Yes.
And, you know, with everybody sometimes talking at these young men who are getting involved, sometimes they need a guy to walk into the room who has already been there and seen it and can just simply talk to them I guess the term is now, meet them where they live.
Yes.
You know, I'm just hearing your story and I'm just like, are you kidding? This guy can absolutely walk into a room and capture it. Please tell me you're doing
That's
it.
the blessing about what God has done with me. Because once I came back into the church, I realized that some of the men and the young women that were in the lifestyle that I left were mishandled or even overlooked.
Yes.
So that was a part of what fueled my passion to be a part of the church and to be not one of those people that just talk about the church and what they're not doing, but to get engaged and involved and to help the church to do what God was calling us to do. So that's what led me into youth ministry. That had a lot to do with my community that I grew up in Roseland, on the south side of Chicago. So we were going into Roseland and picking up young people, bringing them to the church. We had Friday night explosions for the youth, and that was my way of giving back. Because the truth of the matter is, when I was in that lifestyle, I was an influencer then, and I was influencing people to go down the wrong path. So now,
use your powers for good.
As God has turned my mind over and renewed my mind, now I want to go back to those same individuals and try to help them to come into a positive life where they can live with an abundance and with confidence and power of who God made them to be. So yes, I'm very involved. I go back to my community. I talk to my community, and I'm trying to do the same thing in Gary. I know some people, they don't even know that I'm not from Gary because I'm so involved in the community, because I just want to help the next generation to survive and to make it and to be who God called them to be.
And I know we're up against it, and as I said, this is probably a question that we can absolutely talk about for an hour, but one of the things I read a couple of days ago and was in the Washington Post, and they were just talking about, you know, where religion is right now in our society. And there was a study that, like, in 2014 or something, it was a certain percentage of people said that they either went to church weekly or every other week in some type of frequency. And now in 2024, this number was down to like below 20%. Whether, you know, I identify as Catholic or whatever, but just overall, in a nutshell, what do you think the church has to do? Because I've got some thoughts about it. I think, you know, the church, in an effort to kind of maybe just go after numbers and things like that, has lost some of the things that has made it the church. It's kind of caved in on a lot of things that, you know, listen, the church is not supposed to make everybody happy. You kind of come into it, or at least that's how I've gone into when I was in my 20s and kind of reshaping my religion, and I ended up going Catholic. The only reason I went there was because it was a little more regimented. I needed something that just told me, you don't do this, and then I can kind of get a core back. And that, you know, obviously people, you know, grew up and, you know, they had their own little more, that just kind of helped me. But now you look at the church, and a lot of people see the church as just kind of moving and flowing with whatever going on at the time. What are your thoughts? And I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this. You're a smart man, but just in a nutshell, what does the church need to do to go out here and get people interested back in it?
I think we need to do what Jesus did, which is be more involved in people's lives than in the quote-unquote traditions of the church. I do believe the church has needed to shift a little bit, because sometimes when you're too heavenly minded, you're no earthly good. And this is what was going on in Jesus' ministry when we read the Bible. The Pharisees, which were the leaders of the church, had a major issue with him because he spent a lot of time with sinners.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time.
He was hanging out with them.
He hung out with them every day. He discipled them.
Yeah.
And some of them became writers of the Bible.
Right.
So he went out into people's lives and found the need and met them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think the church gets so caught up in kind of the tradition of this is our circle,
right?
And you have to come and meet our standards,
okay,
to be able to be a part of it. But Jesus, he did the opposite. He came down to bring people up. One of my pastors told me a long time ago, and I'll never forget this saying: it's easier for a wise man to play the role of a fool than it is for a fool to play the role of a wise man. I'm not trying to call nobody a fool, but the thing is that those who know better can come down and meet people who don't know better,
right,
to bring them up to the standard. So as you were talking about the standard, we do need the standard, but the standard shouldn't be so rigid that we can't understand that people don't understand the standard.
Yeah.
Therefore, we have to meet them where they are, love on them where they are, to bring them up to where we need them to be. And this is what my youth ministry and even the ministry now was all about. It was about me meeting them with their pants down and their hats on backwards.
Yeah.
And then loving on them and building relationship with them to the point where they knew my heart.
Right.
And then after that, pull your pants up. It was
turn
no
your
problem.
head around
It was
straight.
no problem.
There you go.
It's
I
the
get
same
it.
with the church. If we can just get involved with the lost, with the brokenhearted, with the forgotten, and love on them enough to let them know we care, then we can tell them, well, you shouldn't be doing this or you should be doing that. This is how God wants us to live. And I believe it'll be so much better received if we met them where they are.
Good stuff, my man. Anybody tell you look like Jaleel White?
I've heard of
Oh my God! Not the Urkel part, the Stefan.
The Stefan.
The Stefan. Absolutely, that was amazing
I wish
stuff.
I had his money.
I'm sure you do. But no, that was, I really appreciate that, Pastor. I mean, seriously, I'm glad you shared a little bit of your story with us.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just glad you kind of just answered those questions. I mean, you just kind of took us there because I'm listening to everything you're saying. And it makes absolute sense. So I know we're kind of coming up against it. Please give us the logistics once again for this women's concert, as you said, convention, excuse me. And as you said, there's a $40 donation on Saturday, correct?
Yes.
Because you're going to get material. So give us the logistics quickly.
Again, the Hem of His Garment Women's Conference will be held April 26th, 27th, and 28th at the Israel Metropolitan Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, where our pastor is Reverend Octavius Wilson.
Yeah.
The praise and worship service is Friday night at 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6 p.m. We will also have vendors. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention there will be vendors. And Saturday morning, it's free to the public. Friday night, community-wide, bring your family, your husbands, your wives, your kids, everybody. Bring them, everybody. And then Saturday morning is the conference. It's a $40 registration fee. We're going to start at 9 o'clock. We will give you lunch. And then Sunday morning is our worship service at 11 a.m. With Dr. Beverly Lewis as our bringing our sermon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know we're pressed for time, but I do want to add.
Yeah.
When our pastor came, they looked at him a little crazy because he's got dreads down his back, he's got tattoos all over his arm, but he is the most down-to-earth person ever.
Right.
And so his vision is that we go into the community. That is the Great Commission, go ye therefore, out into the nations. So what he does is he makes sure that we are community minded.
Right.
We have kind of adopted the Brothers Keepers, so we get men from there all the time, and we love on them.
Right.
We don't treat them like they're outsiders.
Right.
You can't, just because they may not dress like us, they may not smell like us.
I'll be honest with you, I like that. I like that approach. That's kind of like my approach. As I said, when my parents, I was baptized AME, and so my grandmother was a church secretary at First AME. My grandfather was a deacon there, and then we ended up going out to where I live in Miller, and I was raised a Marquette Methodist. But when I was in college or whatever, I was just kind of looking for myself or whatever, and as I said, the Catholic Church kind of attracted me. I had a guy who was Muslim who gave me a leather-bound Quran, which I got about a little over half through. I found it very interesting, but I was obviously tied to Christianity.
Right.
And going into some Catholic masses down because I was in college, so I was down in Tuskegee and Auburn, Alabama, and just to be able to walk in there, and there wasn't a lot of the pomp and circumstance of dressing up It was very open, where there were people that were coming in there. You can obviously tell that they were having some problems. But it just was like, come on in. As long as we get you in here, then now we got you.
Show you,
and you sit next to a pew with somebody who probably maybe living a $500,000 home, and then at the end of that pew is somebody that was living like me. And well, no, I was okay, but I'm just saying, you get what I'm saying. We all shared the same. And so I was always kind of into that. I always appreciate the beauty of some of these churches and people dressing up with their Sunday best. But,
and that's okay.
And that's okay. But I
it's
respect,
not about that.
Thank you. I respect that approach. And I think most people who don't find themselves kind of naturally involved in religion appreciate that as well. You know, when
those are the ones we're looking for.
That's who you're going after. That's what I like about it, because you're deliberate. You're deliberate.
Yes, deliberately.
Now for the conference, you can find us on Eventbrite. Under Hem of His Garment conference, or you can go to our website at Israel, which is ISRAELCMEIN.org. And you can find information on there. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok under Israel Metropolitan Church. We're doing everything.
Thank you.
Look at you throwing that in there. Now, before you go, give me the logistics of the church. I want you to plug Israel, because I'm sure there are people out here that love what they just heard and wouldn't mind dropping in on a Sunday or whatever and kind of hearing this live when you're really doing your thing.
Israel Metropolitan CME Church is located at 2301 Washington Street. Gary, Indiana 46407. Where the pastor is the Reverend Octavius Wilson, on fire for the Lord, where our motto is building of the church built by faith, building families and communities. We're an open congregation. We want you to come in as you are. It's not the traditional setting, so you won't see everybody in suits and square-toed shoes. You can come in your jumpsuit and get a word from the Lord. Our services start at 11. We'll be out of there by 12:30, and we have an awesome time in the Lord. So you're more than welcome to come and receive a word from the Lord in person, or you can find us again on our Facebook page or YouTube channel at Israel Metropolitan Church, Gary, Indiana, where you can receive the word from the Lord.
I like it. You got a pretty diverse congregation, don't you? Doesn't one of our former mayors go there?
Yes.
KFW.
She's singing the choir.
KFW's in the choir.
It's about the church too. Our focus is intergenerational connection. So we do have a wide range, and this is kind of what ties into the conference as well, which is why we have these other ministries coming in from different denominations. I'm also a part of a ministry called Tearing Down the Walls, Rebuilding Kingdom, or Recalibrating Kingdom Connections. It's a Baptist church, AME church, Kojic church, and now we have 2 non-denominational churches, and I'm the CME church. And what we're trying to do is tear down the walls of division. And we're coming together, worshiping with each other every 5th Sunday, just trying to build the camaraderie, because it's all about connecting for the kingdom of God. As it pertains to religion, I want to mention this about what you were saying about why so many people fall away from religion now, because it's never really been about religion. Jesus came with a kingdom. And it's all about the kingdom. Which breaks down all of the denominational
because this denominational stuff sometimes can get a little much.
Of God and building God's kingdom. Kingdom, that word is basileia. And that means God's reigning authority. His governance. So all what Jesus was trying to do was to get people to follow the Lord. It had nothing to do with denominationalism. We did that as men.
We did.
But God wants us to be on one accord, both
across
denominations and across generational lines. He wants our seniors to be able to communicate with our youth, and our youth to be able to communicate with our young adults. He wants us to be a family.
You know what?
So that's what our goal is at Israel and with this women's conference.
I like that. I'm telling you, man, that is it right there. I'm getting goosebumps. I gotta let you go before we start getting the choir up in here and really do it right. This has been absolutely a pleasure. It really has, it really has, my friend. And Tammy, thank you very much. I know this is going to be a success. And this is coming up on this weekend. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday is just for the women, dude. So let them alone. But on Friday and Sunday, go out there and support.
Shout out to C. Witt. Thank you so much for the
opportunity.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a break. Coming up in a little bit when we